Okie dokie, it's enough already. You're probably sitting there just wanting a practical example of how this all fits together. We know every website consists of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But how does it all fit together, and what is a practical example? Because I know if you're like me, you get frustrated not seeing it in action. Well, let me give you one, and I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say we have a button, a simple HTML button, which you can easily write in HTML with the tags button. What's going to pop up on your screen? You guessed it, a boring old button. But what if we wanted to spice this button up, make it look nice? Well, one option could be to make it blue. And what do you use for that? You guessed it, CSS. And I know it's ugly, I'm just giving you an example here. But what do you think is going to happen now when you go to click that button? Well, let's try. Nothing, because you need JavaScript. And that's the point I'm trying to get across here. What about if we wanted to push that button and change the word push me to something like, I don't know, I've been clicked? How would we do that? The first thing you need to be familiar with when it comes to writing JavaScript is the well-known script tag. JavaScript has to be inserted between script tags. So you're going to be seeing this every single time you write JavaScript. And when your browser goes through your code and it sees this script tag, your browser knows that it needs to interpret JavaScript. That's how your browser kicks in. That's how it knows what to do with that code. So remember that. The other thing you must remember is that you can either write your JavaScript code directly between those script tags, and we'll do that here just because it's a lot easier. You'll see later in this course the more common way to do it is to actually write your JavaScript code in another file, and then your script tags just have to point to that file or that URL. And now for some awesome knowledge. Did you know you can write other languages within the script tag? But generally everyone uses it for JavaScript. So when you go and you see old examples in other courses, or when you start Googling, you might come across a script tag where they've got a type attribute, where that type attribute is text/JavaScript. But what you need to know is that you don't really need this. Why? Because that's old school. New HTML5 specification makes JavaScript the default language found within script tags. In other words, when your browser comes across a script tag, it will automatically assume that that code is JavaScript. So now, how do we write JavaScript? No one really taught me this, but I like to break it down into 3 broad categories. Step 1, identify the thing you're wanting to affect in some way. In this case, we're wanting to affect the button. So let's identify it using JavaScript. And don't worry about the syntax. We'll get into the syntax and how we write JavaScript later in this course. I just want you to understand the process. Step 2, we need to tell JavaScript when to run the code. In this case, it's when we click a button. And lastly, we need to define what happens when the button is clicked. And this is where the meat of your JavaScript happens. This is where you're going to be writing the majority of your code. In our case, it's a very simple example. We just want the words to change on the button to I've been clicked. You've just written your first JavaScript. How awesome is that? And you can see it's not that difficult. It's literally just a few English words structured in a logical manner, which gets to a result. That's all that JavaScript is. And it has to be within these script tags. Just remember that. So now when we go and click that button, this time it's going to perform as we expected. And this is obviously a very, very simple example, but I really hope it has solidified the concept of how JavaScript, how CSS, and how HTML fit in with each other. And you're probably wondering, how do you put the JavaScript in your code, what files to put it in, how to reference it all. Don't worry, we're going to get into that. For now, this is just a very important concept for you to grasp. I guess we're done. Let's move on.